Let's go to the US now, where Joe Biden, the president, is really digging in his heels, despite senior Democrats wanting the president to step aside ahead, of course, of the upcoming election. Now, some Democrats and much of the media have now turned their back on Joe Biden after that disastrous debate with Donald Trump last month, sparking questions, of course, around his mental fitness, something we've been speaking about here for years now. But despite the noise, he says he's going nowhere. Have a listen to his latest interview on MSNBC.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
Boy, he's getting very frustrated. You heard it there, a challenge from the president. Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kristin Tate. Kristin, thanks for joining me. Poor old Joe Biden, he's now selling himself to anyone, it seems to me, that will shake his hand in the street, isn't he?
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me. Yes, Joe Biden is becoming increasingly desperate as Democrats are turning on him. The New York Times editorial board has called for him to step down. All the Democrats I know in my life, family, friends, they all want him gone. And this is making the president increasingly desperate. He's out there in public much more this last week than usual to try to prove to everybody that he's totally with it. And it is backfiring. It is just one gaffe after another. It just looks so bad. And this president, you got to feel bad for him at some point. He's just really struggling to hold on.
Kristin, we've spoken about this before. I don't think there is one person you can blame here. It's bordering on elder abuse. Here was Donald Trump's take on the situation.
I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in. And if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. He's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out. So, I mean, you really have to speak to his doctors, but obviously he's been sheltered by the fake news media.
Kristin, the former president mentions Hunter Biden there. Tell me what the American public think of people like Jill Biden, like Hunter Biden, the close-knit family around him.
Joe Biden is a political animal. This is a man who, for his whole life, has been in politics and has wanted to be president. He entered He entered U.S. politics at the national level at a very young age. This has been his lifelong goal. He is so desperate for power that, personally, I think he's the one who doesn't want to step aside. But his whole family, of course, is all entrenched. Jill Biden, Hunter, the whole gang, his brother, they all get rich off the Biden family name. And the second Joe Biden steps aside or is pushed aside, the whole gravy train comes to a halt, and all the money for the finger paintings that Hunter Biden does and the business deals that his brother does, and it all ends. So, of course, they all want him to stay in power, but we don't really know who is the one refusing to step aside, whether it's Joe or people around him, or maybe a shadowy cabal of people in power who are the ones really making decisions behind the curtain, who want him there as the figurehead so they can continue running the show. We just don't know. And that's part of what's making voters so terrified right now.
Kristin, it's always Democratic governors. They all turned up at the White House the other day, a whole bunch of them. One of the theories going around is that those very governors are saying, no, Joe's all good, he's going to keep going, we don't want him to step aside. But the theory behind the scenes, and I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, is that some of those governors may have their own presidential ambitions 4 years down the track.
Yes, that's right. Right now, the Democrats are dealing with a very shallow bench of talent, at least when it comes to people with name recognition. There simply aren't very many people who could sub in for Joe Biden and do phenomenally well, because the Democrats who are really skilled right now in the party and up and coming, they're just not very well known. So you have many Democrat governors trying to kind of get a little piece of the spotlight right now. They have hopes for themselves in 4 years. As for the next election, Steve, I'm just not sure who they would replace Biden with if he were to step aside. Would it be Kamala Harris? I mean, she's such a dud. She couldn't even make it to her own state of California in the Democrat primary last election cycle. black voters, women voters, they just don't like her. She polls horribly. Would it be Gavin Newsom? He has a track record of disaster in California. Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, she's another one they say might replace Joe Biden. She's been a disaster. So I guess that leaves Michelle Obama. I do think she would probably do quite well, but I'm not sure she would want to do it.
What about this report in the New York Post that a Parkinson's disease expert, a doctor, has visited the White House 8 times? Now, the poor old press secretary was wheeled out again today. Have a listen to how she dealt with that.
It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times.
Kristin, she was pretty angry there. She says there's nothing to see here. What's your view on that?
I mean, they're all just liars at this point. Everybody can see with their own eyes what's going on. And the press secretary is basically telling the American public, don't believe your lying eyes, believe me. But everyone knows what's going on. And I found it funny, Steve, that she cited privacy concerns, right? As if these people in the Biden administration care so much about privacy. We had to show COVID vaccine records to get into gyms to work out a couple of years ago. But oh, now they care about the privacy. But of course, she would have said to the public, it has been confirmed that the president doesn't have Parkinson's, according to experts, if he didn't have it. So I suspect he has it or some other medical condition. It's quite obvious to anybody with a functioning brain who watches him. And at this point, the only people left supporting Joe Biden are the ones who would vote for any Democrat up there. They're just simply voting against Donald Trump. And that's why I have to think they will replace Biden, because it's only upside for the Democrats. People who still support Biden will support any Democrat they put in there. So they only increase their voting pool by switching him out, because then they could get into some of those independent voters who are really terrified by this president's mental and physical deterioration.
Donald Trump, let's go back to him. He seems to be showing a bit of discipline lately, but will that discipline, do you think, Kristin, last right through the campaign?
That is... that's a great question, Steve. He really is showing discipline here. He's being quite controlled with his speech in that debate. We saw a new Donald Trump who had clearly been trained to kind of let Joe Biden destroy himself, and it worked quite well. I have been saying for years now, if this election becomes a referendum on Biden, Trump wins. If it becomes a referendum on Trump, Biden wins. So Trump is going to do best if he kind of just sits back, lets Joe Biden get out there in public and make a complete fool of himself. And that's what he's doing right now. But hey, with Trump, you never know what to expect. So I'm not sure if he'll continue down this path, but I hope so, because it does seem to be quite successful for him.